of Denver.
Well, Vance Joseph has just met with general manager John Elway, who informed him, to no one's surprise, that Vance Joseph is now out as the Broncos coach, officially fired after just 2 seasons. Yes, the first back-to-back losing seasons for the Broncos in a long, long time. But, of course, got to understand the landscape of this. Last year, basically with no quarterback, including Paxton Lynch, who has remained unemployed for the balance of this season. And this year with Case Keenum, who just was not a viable starting quarterback. The defense played. The team obviously continued to give the effort, including through yesterday, but just not enough offense to survive. And now the Broncos, once again, as they have several times in John Elway's tenure, need a new head coach. And, of course, along with this head coach will come the pull of trying to find a way to move forward offensively and get some sort of functionality going on that side of the ball.
Ian, thanks so much. We'll talk to you throughout the morning here, back here at the breakfast table. 11-21 in his career. He now joins a list now that's growing. Dirk Cutter, Todd Bowles, Steve Wilks, and Vance Joseph. 2 openings, of course, in Green Bay and Cleveland, respectively. But what do you make out of what's going on in Denver?
Yeah, this was one where it feels like John Elway is chasing his own tail. Let's find some sort of offensive stability. And Vance Joseph had no shot with the roster they had out there this year. There was injuries. You had Tim Patrick playing wide receiver when it mattered, River Craycraft, and you trade Demaryius Thomas. You get an Emmanuel Sanders injured. But the Case Keenum situation is what's going to really be hovering over this one. Is he your quarterback moving forward? Because like we said with Arizona, like we said with the Jets, you want an offensive coach to get this offense going. But they're not growing on trees. Like, where are these guys coming from?
I need the next McVay.
I need the next McVay. Well, find me that next McVay. Vance Joseph is a good man, is beloved by the players, and I even think Elway and some of the front office guys and ownership, like, they like Vance Joseph. But after 2 losing seasons, it seems like they're going to turn the page. But, man, since the Super Bowl, when Von Miller was Super Bowl MVP, this has been one of the most mediocre, below-average teams in the NFL, and the offense has been straight atrocious. And it's both player personnel on the field, but also the coaching on it. I don't know where they go, but I think it's going to be the same thing you hear from all these teams. Tampa, Arizona, Jets. Find me an offensive coach. Find a guy that can work with a young quarterback. The problem with Denver is they don't have that young quarterback. There is no Josh Rosen or Sam Darnold. You can say, well, I can at least get...
That was Paxton Lynch.
Case Keenum's not your future quarterback long term. Yeah. There's a lot of work to be done there, and I don't know who the coach is going to be.
But you've been highlighting candidates all season long. It's Traeger's ones to watch. Yeah. Do those guys exist off trees like Sean McVay?
Maybe you could say that no one thought McVay would be what he was. No one thought Doug Peterson would be what he was. No one thought Matt Nagy would be what he was. You got to give him an opportunity first. I don't know.
How do they figure to be players in the draft then? I mean, are they one of those aggressive teams to get the quarterbacks? It's not the quarterback-rich draft. I know we're getting ahead of ourselves. But
you could also
they did a great job in the draft this past year.
They did. They got players. They got role players. But you need the quarterback. And Paxton Lynch was a whiff. And Case Keenum's not your long-term guy. He's a serviceable quarterback, and he'll do the job. And you keep him around for next year. But I think you have to lay the bricks for next year and beyond. And the Broncos, they had a 5'7" running back that had a nice season. They've got Von Miller and Bradley Chubb and a couple other young, nice players. But who's the quarterback going to be? And if I'm a coach, that's what I'm asking front office. What are we doing at that position?
Yeah, you need the quarterback. You also need the coach. You know, it's tough because you look at these teams and they want immediate results. And you look at Steve Wilks in the situation in Arizona and now Vance Joseph here in Denver. I mean, you're 1-2 years and you're expecting some magical turnaround. Now, for me, there's part of me that says it's too short of a time. You cannot get rid of a coach, especially when you're looking for consistency and players sitting back in the locker room saying, oh, here we are, pressing the reset button again. But then again, you can sit and look at me and say, Nate, well, what about Matt Nagy? You know, what about Sean McVay? What about these coaches what about Vrabel? What about these coaches in the first year that said, no, we're good. We got this. We can make the playoffs. So I'm kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. I'm going to reserve judgment really on these organizations making these decisions, even Arizona, but Denver as well, any other coaches getting fired. I want to wait to hear from these players, though, because the players will say a lot about what that coach meant to the team and the organization. So I'm going to wait to speak on this.
I will say everybody wants the young, flashy thing. Do you really want that in Denver when you have such a young squad? You went from having 2 30-year-old Pro Bowlers to having Deshaun Hamilton and Cortland Sutton out there as your receiving core. You've got young guys, Philip Lindsay. It's a young offense. Maybe you need an OG presence. We'll see which way they go. But a young quarterback who needs some guidance is out in the desert, and that is Josh Rosen, Steve Wilks.